leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 5 o'clock, the chair of the Conservative Party has told LBC that Labour's plan to stop MPs from having more than one job is preposterous. Grant Shapps also described Ed Miliband as a Marxist.
I don't think there's any real room in this country for full-time, professional politicians who've never done anything else in their life. And basically, Ed Miliband's now pushing this line, we must ban every other interest. Well, Ed Miliband's never done anything apart from politics. Who is he to lecture people?
And the Shadow Chancellor Ed Balls will take your calls with Ian Dale on LBC in a few moments' time. The Chief Executive of HSBC has apologised to MPs in person for what he calls unacceptable practices at the bank's Swiss subsidiary. Following allegations that the bank helped wealthy customers dodge tax, Stuart Gulliver told the Treasury Select Committee that changes have been made.
We have reduced the number of clients that we have in the Swiss Private Bank from 30,000 to 10,000. We have reduced the assets under management by 42% from 118 billion to 68. We have a tax transparency policy in place.
The driver of the bin lorry, which killed 6 people in Glasgow 3 days before Christmas, will not face criminal charges. 58-year-old Harry Clark won't be prosecuted, neither will Glasgow City Council. A British health worker is being monitored for Ebola at a hospital in London. The medic's been brought back to the UK after being potentially exposed in West Africa. They're being assessed at the Royal Free Hospital. Firefighters taking part in a 24-hour strike in England are protesting at Westminster. Thousands of members of the Fire Brigades Union have walked out in a row over pensions and changes to the retirement age. This firefighter told LBC they're getting mixed messages.
The Fire Minister is saying that the fire authorities are breaking the law if they don't give us firefighters who lose their fitness through no fault of their own, don't give them a job or an unreduced pension after the age of 55. And all the fire authorities are saying that the Minister is talking rubbish and that they would be breaking the law if they do what the Minister says.
2 people have come forward after pictures of 7 men were released by police as part of an investigation into racist chanting at St Pancras Station. It's believed they were returning to London a day after Chelsea played Paris Saint-Germain last week. Jill Murray is from British Transport Police.
A member of the public came forward who was disgusted by the language used by a group of men that they believe were Chelsea fans. We are appealing to the public, the men themselves, or anybody who may have witnessed that incident to come forward and help us investigate that thoroughly.
And you can see the pictures on our website, lbc.co.uk. A network of computers across Europe which were used to access bank details and passwords has been shut down. The National Crime Agency led the operation to target the servers, which infected 3 million machines with malware. And Fernando Alonso has left hospital after his crash at the weekend. The 33-year-old double F1 champion hit the wall at turn 3 of the Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona. The FTSE 100 index has closed the day down 14 points at 69.35. LBC weather, cloudy and breezy this evening in London and the southeast, staying quite mild with patchy light rain at times, a low of 9 Celsius. Showers across the rest of England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland tonight. Tomorrow, sunny spells in the south and showers in northern parts. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Rupert Martier.
I'm Joanne Webb in the LBC Travel Centre on the M25 on the Essex stretch. Traffic was being held clockwise at junction 28 at the A12 following an accident. It's all open now, but it's still extremely busy on the approach. In Norfolk on the A149, there's a closure in both directions because of an accident. It's at Catfield. It will be closed for some time yet, I'm afraid. It is very busy on the approach. In Shropshire at Tong, the A41 is closed in both directions, and that's also because of an accident. Just hearing about some big problems in Derbyshire on the A617. It is currently blocked in both directions at Temple Normanton, and this is because a lorry carrying a load of logs is on fire, so quite frankly it's going to be on fire for quite some time. In Glasgow there are long delays on the M8 eastbound all the way from junction 25 at the A7839, and that's because of an accident that happened earlier. Everything's on the hard shoulder, but it's still very busy to junction 16 at Craighall. Keeping you moving, your next travel updates in 15 minutes.
This is LBC.
Hello and welcome aboard your East Coast train. Calling at smoked salmon and dill sandwich, chicken tikka masala, Emmental and mushroom croque, and finally stopping at Spanish Cabernet Sauvignon.
With a new complimentary food and drink menu on East Coast trains for first-class travellers and the food bar in Standard, we're pulling out all the stops to make you feel at home. So next time you need to travel, why not try it the East Coast Trains way? Book today at eastcoast.co.uk.
This is LBC, leading Britain's conversation with Ian Dale at Drive. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850. Ian Dale at Drive on LBC.
Hello, very good afternoon. Great to have you with us. I'm Ian Dale at Drive, leading Britain's conversation every weekday between 4 and 8 here on LBC. Well, every month for the last, 6 or 7 months, Ed Balls, the Shadow Chancellor, has joined us to take your calls. This month is no different. We are only, 71 days away from the general election. The day after the general election, the man sitting about 2 feet to my right could be Chancellor of the Exchequer. If he was, what's the first thing you would like him to do as Chancellor of the Exchequer? We've got him here for a whole hour. You can watch at lbc.co.uk. Give us a call now. 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. It's 5 minutes past 5. Well, first of all, happy birthday. It's very good of you to come in on your birthday to do this.
Look, what better way to spend your birthday than an hour with you, Ian? It's it's what we do every year, isn't it?
Did Ed Miliband buy you a present?
No, but David Cameron wished me a happy birthday in the House of Commons.
I saw that, because
I was
you
thinking,
aren't best friends, really, are you?
It's all very well, though. Where was the cake? Where were the candles? It was, I think the words are cheap. Where's the substance?
Well, I think you might be waiting a long time for that from David Cameron. But he says he's improved the Norwich line. So what's the line he used? So when you lose your seat in May, you can get to Norwich City quicker.
Yeah, well, he thought I was going to lose my seat in 2010 as well, and he came to visit 3 times, and I won. So let's hope he's going to come and visit again.
The thing is, I don't think they ever did think that, and they were quite surprised when it was actually a bit closer than they thought.
Well, in the last election, I went to 42 different Labour marginal seats during the election campaign. So David Cameron was coming to mine, but I was going to other seats around the country, and I'll make sure that we work really hard in Morley and Outwood, and it's a great constituency, but I'll be campaigning right across the United Kingdom too.
I'm sure you will. Now, we've got lots of calls already coming in, but before we go to the first call, I just want to have a quick word about what's happened this afternoon in the Treasury Select Committee. The two bosses of HSBC, I think, had a pretty torrid time giving their evidence. When you were watching them sitting there, what goes through your mind when you see them being quizzed by MPs? Would you have liked to have been there yourself doing the quizzing?
I think it's Parliament doing its job, and the Select Committee is a committee of backbenchers, and so I've been a minister in front of those select committees very many times indeed, but I've actually never been a member, a backbench member of a select committee. I think it's Parliament doing its job and holding people to account. And although, for example, Douglas Flint wasn't the chair of the bank at the time, that was Lord Green, he also, is the person who has to take account for what's happened, and as he did, to apologise and to say it's been very damaging, and to reassure us that they are doing what it takes to get this sorted out.
And when you look at them, do you think, what's the word that comes into your mind? Incompetent, arrogant, or were they a bit contrite today?
I thought they were contrite today, and rightly so. From their point of view, HSBC is a global business. It's actually a very important bank for our country. It lends to many businesses, large and small. Very many people listening to your programme have got accounts with them. My sister worked for HSBC and Midland Bank before them for 20 years, a few years ago. So it employs loads and loads of people. And it's very damaging for this kind of thing, even though it's about the past, to come out. And so I can see why. The thing that they've got to do, and all of these bank leaders have got to do, is to show that things have changed. And the worst thing is the sense of brushing it under the carpet.
But just when you think, though, that you've seen everything, another one of these scandals seems to appear. Do you think we're at a point now where we're almost getting to a point where there can't be anything else, or do you fear that there are more scandals to come?
Well, back in 2011, but when I became Shadow Chancellor, often I would be told by people in the city, why are people still talking about these issues? The world's moved on, and that's not happened. And the reason why we're saying repeat the bank bonus tax for young people's jobs and raise the bank levy for free childcare for working parents to 25 hours is because I think that people still need to see the banks are going to make a greater contribution, and we've still got to see evidence of the cultural change alongside tougher regulation, which we need to see. Banks are important. We would be in a very bad state as a country if we had no banks. but they've got to be banks which work for businesses, work for all of us, rather than the other way around.
You've tried to pin this on George Osborne and David Cameron, so they should have acted more quickly. But of course, all of this happened when you were in power. Indeed, you were a Treasury Minister at the time when some of this was happening. You clearly had no idea.
No, and the evidence was presented in all its full detail in May 2010 to the government.
Well,
and
wasn't it first presented, though, in 2008 to HMRC, and they did nothing about it, and the head of HMRC had a bit of a torrid time in front of Margaret Hodge on this, in front of her select committee.
Well, look, George Osborne, and 2 weeks ago, was trying to claim that it was me who knew about this in 2006-07, even before there was any evidence anywhere. As far as I understand, the first time that HMRC saw the full detail of these files was in 2010, and what we know is that after that, the chair of the bank at the time, Lord Green, was appointed by David Cameron and George Osborne as a minister. And the questions I asked of George Osborne on Monday were, did he discuss this with Lord Green? Did he ever discuss tax avoidance with Lord Green and HSBC? When they signed the Swiss deal, did he ever speak to Lord Green about this? And once again, a fortnight on, he refused to answer any of those questions. Now, we're not going to have trust in the political process if important people like the Chancellor can't answer basic questions. I can answer every question on this. George Osborne is refusing time and time again to be accountable for things which happened on his watch.
It happened on your watch.
No, it didn't happen.
Well, the offences happened on your watch.
But Ian, the appointment of Lord Green, who had been the chair of HSBC as a minister, the lack of prosecutions when it came to light, and the Swiss deal were all things which happened on George Osborne's watch. He's been the Chancellor for 5 years. He can't keep saying it was all the fault of the Labour government. He's been the Chancellor for 5 years. He's refusing to be accountable, and we're going to keep asking him the difficult questions. He's obviously running scared on this.
And just finally on this, is saying sorry enough from these two men at the Select Committee today? Is that enough?
No, of course it's not, because what people need to...
So what else do they need to do?
People need to see that the culture in these institutions has changed, as well as the law and the regulation, so that in future people can have confidence that these big, powerful institutions in our country are working in a way which is accountable and right and proper. That's within the law, but also to back job creation and people in our country. There's a sense that in the past, some of these banks were just out for themselves, above the law, running amok.
All right.
That's not good enough.
Let's move on to our first call. John is in Slough. John, what would you like to ask Ed Balls?
Ed, to speak to you on your birthday.
Hi, thank you, John. How old are you? Are you
I'm
young?
55. 55. I feel like I'm 95 since this government's been in power.
Oh, I know.
Hey. Right, okay, I should be a Labour supporter, but I'm not. I'm a UKIP supporter now, and the reason is somebody like Dennis Skinner isn't running your party. If Dennis Skinner was running your party, I would vote Labour. Anyway, moving on.
That's a thought, Ed.
Well, hang on a sec, John. Dennis Skinner is somebody who's been a Labour MP for very many years. He believes in the National Health Service. He thinks it should be free to you, regardless of how much money you've got. The UKIP policy is
to everybody that comes into the country from the European Union as well.
No, UKIP are saying that everybody, including you and British citizens, will be charged to go and see a GP, and they're saying that the government's gone not far enough in privatising the NHS. Is that really what you think's right for Britain? Because if not, I wouldn't vote for UKIP.
I just know.
John, I don't think that's what you
I know that when I go to the doctors, I can't get an appointment. When I go to A&E, I have to wait for 4 hours.
That's right, and the UKIP argument is, John...
in the figures, you know that.
But John, the UKIP argument is, if you had to pay £20 to go and see a GP, fewer people will go, and therefore, if you can afford it, you get an appointment quicker. I don't think that's fair, though.
Right, let's move on to your question,
John. Everybody can afford £20.
John,
my point
I don't think everybody can afford £20, John, really.
Yes, they can, because they're getting loads of...
Let's move on to your question.
Tax credits and stuff. My point is, why are you picking on people like window cleaners and people like that when people like HSBC are creaming off loads of money, Starbucks, all those people, compared to your window cleaner, it's nothing at all. And just another question.
Why do you think, John,
have you sacked your window cleaner, the one who was in the Daily Mirror today?
Okay.
Of course I haven't, and I'm not picking on window cleaners at all. I want to back small businesses to grow and to do well and make money, and the last thing I want to do is cause more problems for them. In fact, I want to cut business rates for small businesses. In the case of our window cleaner, shall I tell you what happened, John? The Daily Mail turned up and said, does he ask for a receipt? And the window cleaner said no. And do you know why? Because I pay the window cleaner by cheque every 3 months. So it was a completely made-up nonsense.
So you said that you did get a receipt from him, didn't you?
No.
I thought that was the when the story started. Was you saying that, well, people should always get receipt from tradesmen and I get a receipt from my window cleaner?
No. That isn't what happened. What I said was, because I'm in a special position, I'm the Shadow Chancellor, I said that it's fine for people to pay people like window cleaners or gardeners in cash, and it's not their responsibility to pay the tax, it's the small business person, the trader. I said, but in the position I'm in, if I ever pay anybody in cash, I always make sure I get a receipt with their name and address, so that if somebody like you, Ian, comes along and says, have you been avoiding tax, I've got the evidence. So, in the case of the window cleaner, though, I don't pay him in cash. I pay them by cheque. And they send me a bill with their name and address on every few months, and I pay by cheque. So it was entirely made up.
So you don't hold anything against him for talking to the Daily Mail? Because I don't have a window cleaner. I don't earn enough to have one. But if I did have one and he went to the Daily Mail, I'm not sure I'd be very pleased.
If you're some guy in Castleford doing your job, and you got some guy comes up to you, and they were trying to do this to me for a couple of days, because that's the nature of our lives, and says to you, and you're going about your job, do you know Ed Balls, and does he ask for a receipt? And you turn around and say, no, of course he doesn't ask for a receipt. Well, then you've done nothing wrong. But the reason why I don't ask for a receipt is because I don't pay him in cash. That's the whole point.
OK, well, we've cleared that up. John, thank you very much for your call. 0345 6060 973. See what politicians have to put up with.
Was that clear enough, Joe?
I think that was quite clear. Thank you very much.
I can say it all again if you like.
We have lots more calls to come. This is LBC. It is 60 minutes past 5. News headlines, Rupert Bhatia.
The Shadow Chancellor has welcomed an apology from the Chief Executive of HSBC for what's described as unacceptable practices at the bank's Swiss arm. But Ed Balls has told LBC that saying sorry is not enough. Turkish Airlines has been asked to give evidence to the Home Affairs Select Committee. It's after 3 radicalised teenagers from East London flew to Istanbul on the airline on the way to Syria. And firefighters taking part in a 24-hour strike in England are protesting at Westminster. Members of the Fire Brigades Union have walked out in a row over pensions. This is LBC.
Sure you don't want to see my club card magic trick?
Oh, all right, if I must.
Excellent! All right, get ready. 3, 2, 1, Kazam!
Ah!
Hey! Woohoo! Not bad, right?
Magic yourself from forecourt to fun park. Collect club card points at Esso, just like that. Participating Esso service stations only. Terms and conditions apply. Visit esso.co.uk for details.
I'm Joanne Webb in the LBC Travel Centre on the Essex stretch of the M25 clockwise. There are delays to junction 28 at the A12, and that was following an accident that happened earlier. All the lanes are now back open, but it's still very slow. In London, there are delays in Kensal Green after the A404 Harrow Road was closed earlier. It's all back open now, but it's still extremely slow. In Catford, there are long delays on the South Circular Road heading towards Minyard Road, and that's also because of roadworks. The delays continue in Norfolk on the A149. It's still closed in both directions at Catfield, and that was after an accident. It looks like that will stay closed for some time. The A38 is closed in Cornwall westbound at the 12 Woods roundabout at Dobwalls. This is after an accident as well. This could also be closed for some time yet. In Glasgow, it is ever so busy on the M8 eastbound, all the way from junction 25 at the A739 to junction 16 at Craighall, and that was after an accident. Everything's been moved onto the hard shoulder. Keeping you moving, your next travel update is in 15 minutes.
This is LBC.
With lots of space, intelligent safety systems and low fuel consumption, the Skoda Rapid Spaceback is pretty impressive. And if you buy yours before the 31st of March, we'll give you £2,500 minimum part exchange on your old car. So don't miss out. Make a rapid visit to your Skoda retailer today. Part exchange available on selected new Skoda models with Solutions Personal Contract Plan. Deposit from 0 to 30% subject to underwriting. £2,500 minimum part exchange on vehicles with 1 month valid MOT registered with the current owner for at least 3 months. Terms and conditions apply.
Landlords. Direct Line guaranteed to beat any quote for the same cover. Can your landlord insurance do that? Search Direct Line Landlord. New customers only. Qualifying criteria apply. Underwritten by UK Insurance Limited.
You're only one person. So if you want to tell millions of people all the great things about your business instantly, you're going to need a megaphone and be able to travel at the speed of light. Unless we get your customers to do it for you. Reputation.com will gather positive feedback from your happy customers and amplify it. To find out more about how we can help manage, improve and protect your brand's image online, visit Reputation.com.
3, 2, 1. When I was a cat, my paws were firmly on the ground. But now I'm a dog. I'm going places. We have liftoff.
Fuel your phone with loads of data in Rocket Speed 4G on an O2 SIM-only deal and get 2 months free on selected tariffs. Be more dog. Search O2 SIM-only.
Tariff price subject to RPI terms, data costs and 12-month contract apply. Check o2.co.uk.
I know. The state pension is changing.
I know. How much you get will still depend on your national insurance record. And it's being made clearer to help me understand.
I know. I'll be able to see how much I'm likely to receive and understand what I can do to improve my state pension.
I know. If you reach state pension age on or after the 6th of April 2016, you'll be part of the new scheme.
Make sure you know the facts about the new state pension. Visit gov.uk/yourstatepension for more information.
118434, the handy number for handy numbers.
Calls cost 76 pence plus £1.53 per minute from a BT landline. Other networks vary and mobiles cost considerably more.
Ian Dale at Drive on LBC.
Now, if you look at the LBC Twitter feed, we've done one of our awkward vines there tonight. It's quite funny, we think, but I don't know whether
they're
you do
now
as well.
famous for being awkward.
They are
aren't
very famous. So if you go to @LBC and just scroll down, and you'll see it. It gave us a little bit of a titter anyway, and it's on the website lbc.co.uk. You can watch us in all our glory.
But I did call you Ian, not Bill, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah, just checking.
Thanks for small mercies. Right, let's go to your calls. 0345 6060 973. Ed Balls, the Shadow Chancellor, is here with me until 6. Balvinda is in Ilford. Hello, Balvinda.
Oh, good afternoon, Ian.
Hi, what would you like to ask?
First of all, Mr. Balls, happy birthday today.
Thank you, Alvinda, and a happy birthday to you. I assume you're 21.
Oh, my God, I wish I was.
I bet you are.
Enough, Balvinda.
Whenever your birthday is, happy birthday.
What's your question, Balvinda?
I was going to ask you, do you have sympathy for the Green Party's Natalie Bennett for forgetting her key policies and pledges? Do you think women are given a worse time than men? After all, you also had forgotten the name of the Labour Party donor recently.
I think it's if you're the party leader and you turn up on a radio or TV show and you can't explain how to pay for one of your big policies, then I think that's a bit of a problem, really. We've got some brilliant women in our party, Rachel Reeves and Yvette Cooper, Harriet Harman, lots of them, and they all know about our policies and they can show that our sums add up. So I'm afraid it's not much of an excuse, really. If you're the leader of the Green Party, then of course you ought to be able to explain your policies. And she's not just had a few bumpy moments in interviews. She's, I'm afraid, not been able to answer big questions about her policies, and she's trying to stand for election in a few days' time.
She was quite ill yesterday. She had quite a cold. You don't have no human sympathy there?
Of course I have sympathy if she's got a cold, and I have sympathy, for, look, I did an interview a few weeks ago, I forgot somebody's name. The issue on the LBC interview, though, was not that she was under the weather or that she forgot somebody's name. Her problem was she's got a big policy and she couldn't explain any of it to your listeners. She couldn't explain where the money came from, how it added up. And I think it's really important for us politicians that we can explain our policies.
Have you ever been in a situation, or maybe when you were working for Gordon Brown where you were actually on your last legs, you felt really ill, but there was some hugely important thing that you had to do that day and you just couldn't throw a sickie? Because, they had their campaign launch yesterday, so I guess she felt she had to be there because there would have been questions if she didn't. Has that ever happened to you?
I'm not sure if I've ever... we quite often do things when we're a bit under the weather. And if she was a bit under the weather yesterday, then of course I feel sorry for her and sympathy for her. But the difficulty is that about 2 weeks ago, she had an interview with Andrew Neil on the BBC where exactly the same thing happened. And so I think it's a bit of a serial problem here rather than just a one-off.
But do you also look at some politicians in interviews, and let's pluck one out of the air. Boris Johnson, for instance, who I think doesn't get the same level of scrutiny as other politicians, but he can somehow get away with it because he blusters his way through it, has a good laugh with the interviewer, and yet actually he's doing nothing different to what Natalie Bennett did yesterday.
I think the thing with Boris is that if he ever wants to become Prime Minister, then he'll finally won't be able to get away with that. I think in the end he's a bit on borrowed time. His reputation in the House of Commons, particularly amongst Conservative MPs, is that he was not really very good at answering the difficult questions. He was a bit all over the place. I think one of the things about being London mayor is that he does lots of stunts and those kind of things. He doesn't actually announce a huge amount of difficult policy. I think if he was to come back into Parliament, I think there'd be some real questions about Boris's ability to do the work, to answer the detail. I think he's a bit lazy. To be
quick
honest.
response from you, Balvinder. Did you feel sorry for Natalie Bennett?
I do feel that she was under the weather, but I agree with that as well, that she should have done her homework, and the questions, she should have sorted them out from before from Nick Ferrari, and at least had some of the answers on her fingertips.
OK, Balvinder, thank you very much. Lots of UKIP supporters tweeting me, why did you allow Ed Balls to lie about UKIP's NHS policy? Well, if you want to ask him yourself, you know the number, 0345 6060 973. I have to say, I'm never quite sure what UKIP's NHS policy is from one day to the next. Peter?
I thought I was, setting out clearly UKIP's NHS policy. I think the problem with UKIP is they don't really want people to know about their NHS policy, like their tax policy, because it's all a bit balmy.
Let's go to Peter in Hammersmith. Hello, Peter.
Hi there. Hi, Mr. Balls.
Hello,
just
Peter.
A quick question about your party's hostility towards zero-hours contracts. So there's a lot of industries out there that require on this kind of flexibility in the job market, particularly the events industry, I'm thinking is one. But also it offers the opportunity to people who otherwise would be shut out of the jobs market because of work-life issues, access to the jobs market. So I find the hostility that Labour Party seems to have towards zero-hours contracts, which they saw a massive expansion under your own watch, a little bit disingenuous and also misses the point and shows a singular kind of lack of understanding about how business works.
Well, the reality is, Peter, that most of the time when we were in government, there were very few zero-hours contracts at all, and it's become a modern feature of our labour market in the last few years.
But Labour councils use them, don't they?
You're right, starting under a Labour government and then continue under a Conservative government. I don't think that every zero-hour contract is wrong at all. We've said exploitative zero-hours contracts are the problem.
But
which
how
is
do you
where
define what's exploitative and what isn't?
It's where people for month after month after month are staying on the same contractual terms when they actually would like to work and have guaranteed hours and they can't be given them, where they're told that they are not allowed to work for another employer even though in that job they may get no work.
But the government's stopping that, aren't they?
But the reality is, Ian, the figures out today show that the number of people on zero-hours contracts has gone up from 1.4 million to 1.8 million just in the last year alone. So it's up by 400,000. It's rocketed in the last year. That is not businesses legitimately using zero-hours contracts to be flexible. It's not about the IT engineer who needs to be able to kind of manage his work in a particular way. This is about employers shifting existing employees onto zero-hours contracts to cut the terms and conditions.
But what will you do that this government hasn't? Because they have introduced new regulations that will stop at least part of what you've just been talking about. People, i.e. preventing people from working for another employer if the first one doesn't allow them enough hours.
Well, we're saying that that if people want to, then after a fixed period of months, 6 months, if you're on a zero-hours contract, you should be able to move to a contract which gives you some guaranteed hours. People shouldn't be stuck against their wishes on long-term zero-hours contracts, because I think that is leading to a huge amount of insecurity in our labour market. I think Grant Shapps, the Conservative chairperson this afternoon, I think he's called Grant Shapps this week, said that the economy was vulnerable or was not robust at the moment. David Cameron says the plan's working. His own chair is now saying that it's not working so well. The reason is because people's living standards are not only falling, but you've got all these people, 400,000 more on zero-hours contracts.
OK, let's go to Joe in Stoke. Hello, Joe.
Oh, hello, Ian. How are you?
I'm fine. What would you like to ask, Ed?
Hi, Ed. I wanted to ask about this point about MPs having outside interests that was raised at Prime Minister's Question Time recently. And, I think Labour has to be very clear about whether it's good or whether it's bad. And I know it's invidious to pick on particular examples, but obviously you have Tristram Hunt in our part of the world who's working 16 hours a week in London at QMC. He's got all sorts of other outside interests, a huge sponsorship from PwC, which is running, I think, at about 13,000 a month at the minute. and all sorts of other publishing
we should just
and other interests.
We should just hang on.
I'd just like to know whether that's wrong,
sure,
or whether that's right.
Okay, well, just on the Tristram Hunt, those stuff. Sure. Let's just make clear that he's when you say he's sponsored by PwC, they're actually providing a member of staff for him. They're not actually sponsoring him in the traditional way of the word.
Look, I think, Joe, on the PwC point, first of all, there's no transfer of money from PwC to any opposition MP. There's been a long tradition under the Labour Party, opposition and the Conservatives before that some of these big accountancy firms seconded people to do some work which we don't pay for, but there's no financial benefit from other than the work, to help on things like tax policy or wider business policy. I think that's probably quite a good thing for politics and for them. There's no transfer of money there.
No, but why do PwC do it? Because surely, do they not then expect to get government contracts when you get into government?
Well, absolutely not, and there's no way that they should have that. I think it's probably, for the young guys who come and do it, some quite good experience for them in an early part of their career, and there's no expectation that they get any favour for that. There's certainly no benefit to us in any sort of financial way. The issue of Tristram Hunt's earnings, which was actually, Joe, also the example that David Cameron used today in Prime Minister's Questions, we're saying, first of all, that no MP should have a business directorship or a consultancy where they're lobbying, because we think that is sort of kind of contrary to your job as an
That's
MP.
kind of contrary to the rules at the moment, isn't it? You can't actually lobby. So there's no you aren't proposing a change in the rule.
No, but come on, quite a lot of these consultancies are actually a form of lobbying, and we're saying being a consultant or being a director should be contrary to being an MP, because you should be doing the job as being
Even
an MP.
Even if it's a family firm?
Yeah, we're saying that you shouldn't be a director or a consultant.
So Nigel Evans, he wouldn't be able to be involved in his family's corner shop business?
But we're saying that if you're going to be an MP, you should be an MP.
Okay.
And you shouldn't be a director, and you shouldn't do a consultancy. What we're saying is that you could have some kind of outside work, like some lecturing, or if you're a doctor,
but it's
doing a
just
bit of doctoring.
Anything to do with business is anathema.
No, but we're saying that you should have a cap on those earnings, and we should discuss what the level of the cap should be. I think it's a real issue for lots and lots of Conservative MPs to pretend they're full-time MPs and in fact be spending huge amounts of time running
Well, do you have a second job, any external income?
No.
Okay. Nothing at all. And you never have since you've been an MP? I suppose you were a minister for most of the Labour government.
The answer is no. I think that during the period 2005-06, at that time, I would have, before I was a minister, I might have done one speech or a couple of articles with which I got paid.
Okay.
But I've never had a directorship, I've never done consultancy, and nothing since 2010.
Lots more calls to come. 0345 6060 973. Ed Balls is here with me until 6. I'm Ian Dale at Drive. LBC News Time at 5:32. News headlines with Rupert Bhatia.
The Shadow Chancellor has told LBC he welcomes an apology by the Chief Executive of HSBC. Stuart Gulliver from the bank has told the Treasury Select Committee the practices at the private branch in Switzerland were unacceptable. But Ed Balls has told Ian that saying sorry is not enough.
People need to see that the culture in these institutions has changed, as well as the law and the regulation, so that in future people can have confidence that these big, powerful institutions in our country are working in a way which is accountable and right and proper.
The Chief Constable of South Yorkshire Police says the investigation into Sir Cliff Richard has increased significantly in size since it started and now involves more than one allegation. Sir Cliff denies any wrongdoing. Stay with LBC for the latest. Turkish Airlines has been asked to give evidence to MPs after it carried 3 radicalised British schoolgirls to Istanbul. The teenagers from East London are now thought to have crossed the border into Syria. It's believed they're planning to join the Islamic State group. And a British health worker is being monitored for Ebola at a hospital in London. The medic's been brought back to the UK after being potentially exposed in West Africa. LBC weather, cloudy and breezy this evening in London and the southeast, staying quite mild, with patchy light rain at times, a low of 9 Celsius. Showers across the rest of England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland tonight. Tomorrow, sunny spells in the south, showers in northern parts. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Rupert Bhatia.
I'm Joanne Webb. In the LBC Travel Centre, it's very busy on the M4 eastbound to Junction 3 at the A312. It's because of an accident where one lane is closed. Also in London, there are still queues in and around Westminster after the demonstration earlier on Whitehall. That's all been cleared. It's been cleared for a while, but it's still very slow. And there are long delays in the Kingston one-way system heading on towards Hampton Court Road, and that's because of the temporary traffic lights for the emergency roadworks. On the Essex stretch of the M25, very busy clockwise. Junction 27 at the M11 to Junction 28 at the A12, and that was after that accident that happened earlier. All the lanes are back open, but to clear it they had to close the motorway, so it's all back open now, but still extremely slow. Long delays in Norfolk because the A149 is closed in both directions at Catfield, and that's because of an accident. It looks like it will stay closed for some time. At Dobballs in Cornwall, the A38 remains closed westbound, and also in Cornwall the A30 is closed westbound at Blackwater after an accident. Keeping you moving, your next travel updates in 15 minutes.
This is LBC.
With lots of space, intelligent safety systems and low fuel consumption, the Skoda Rapid Spaceback is pretty impressive. And if you buy yours before the 31st of March, we'll give you £2,500 minimum part exchange on your old car. So don't miss out. Make a rapid visit to your Skoda retailer today. Part exchange available on selected new Skoda models with Solutions Personal Contract Plan. Deposit from 0 to 30% subject to underwriting. £2,500 minimum part exchange on vehicles with 1 month valid MOT registered with the current owner for at least 3 months. Terms and conditions apply.
3, 2. When I was a cat, my paws were firmly on the ground. But now I'm a dog. I'm going places. We have liftoff.
Fuel your phone with loads of data in Rocket Speed 4G on an O2 SIM-only deal and get 2 months free on selected tariffs. Be more dog. Search O2 SIM-only.
Tariff price subject to RPI terms, data costs and 12-month contract apply. Check o2.co.uk.
The power to switch energy supplier is in your hands. It's now easier than ever to switch and save. Many could save around £200, some even more.
I saved £170.
I saved £200.
We saved £230.
Millions have already switched. Don't miss out. Start today at beanenergyshopper.com. Brought to you by UK Government. £200 saving based on median household consumption for both gas and electricity. Details at gov.uk/switching evidence.
Patience is calm. It's vigilant. Patience doesn't shout. It listens. Patience can be a powerful force. A heroic one even. Impatience jumps in, while patience waits. Patiently. It knows when to be still and when to act. They say patience is a virtue. We see it as an asset, our most valuable one.
At Invesco Perpetual, we take a patient approach. To find out more, visit invescoperpetual.co.uk. Invesco Perpetual is a business name of Invesco Asset Management Limited, authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority.
118434, the handy number for handy numbers.
Calls cost 76 pence plus £1.53 per minute from a BT landline. Other networks vary, and mobiles cost considerably more.
Ian Dale at Drive on LBC.
5:37, the Shadow Chancellor Ed Balls is with me to take your calls. Ed, about 2 hours ago, Grant Shapps, the chairman of the Conservative Party, was sitting in that very chair opposite my colleague Sheila Fogarty, and he called Ed Miliband a Marxist.
Did he?
Yes, would you like to react to that?
Well, it's just a load of nonsense, isn't it? But I think, obviously, Grant Shapps is feeling a bit fragile at the moment. He said the economy was fragile. He's obviously feeling a bit fragile. I mean, it's the thing with Grant Shapps is you never, he's a bit Jekyll and Hyde. You never know which guy it's going to be on any particular day. But he was Grant Shapps today, was he?
He was Grant Shapps. But I think
he has another name?
Michael Green. He was responding, I think, to a point from a caller about the Labour Party's attitude to business. We covered that a little bit a moment ago in business and jobs. Do you not think, though, that the narrative you collectively have allowed the narrative to develop over the past month that Labour is somehow anti-business?
No, we're not anti-business, and we're going to work really closely with business because we need more investment and more jobs in our country, and it's businesses who create the wealth. And we want to stay in Europe and as part of the global economy and win investment from around the world, and we're going to do that in partnership with business, and we're going to invest in the infrastructure and get the skills business needs and cut taxes for small business. But what we're not going to do is turn a blind eye when there's companies not paying their fair share of tax. And if companies aren't training, we're going to say you've got to do your bit so that we can gear up for the future. And when markets aren't working well, like the energy market, we're going to toughen up the regulation. The same with banking. That's not anti-business. We're pro-business, but we're not business as usual. We think some things have got to change.
Do you not think, though, that you're more stick than carrot with business, and you need to be a little bit more carrot?
Well, we had a conference just a couple of weeks ago on our long-term plan for an infrastructure commission. We had the chief executives of Thames Water, British Telecom, National Grid, all debating with us what we can do together to invest long-term for the future. Business wants to stay in Europe but reform it. They want to invest in vocational skills. We've got a really strong relationship with business.
We have a call, I think, on this from Mervyn, who's in Essex. Hello, Mervyn.
Hi there, good evening.
Hello, what would you like to say?
Hi, Mervyn.
Hi, Ed. I've got a quick question for you. As a member of the public, obviously I want the best party to run Britain.
Good.
And as we all know, business is important in creating jobs and obviously recovering the economy and so on. Can I just ask where Ed Miliband was for the BCC conference? As we all know that he wasn't there, so obviously first question is where was he?
That's the British Chambers of Commerce.
Yeah.
And yes, absolutely. And what sort of message it sends out to business leaders about Labour and their view on business?
Well, Mervyn, I was speaking at that conference, and so was Chuka Umunna, our business secretary. Ed Miliband spoke at the CBI just before Christmas, and he's speaking at the Engineer Employers Federation tomorrow. He had spoken at the BCC conference before, and of course we sit down, as we did in the autumn, and say, we can't go and speak at every conference, and so we worked out Ed would do the CBI and I would do the BCC. Now, the idea that somehow is a snub from Ed Miliband to business is the kind of thing that Conservative Central Office thinks up, but it's a loads of absolute tosh. Mervyn. Let me reassure you, it says nothing at all about our attitude to business.
But I understand that Ed Miliband, at the very time that he could have been speaking at the conference, was in your party headquarters 200 yards down the road. Couldn't he have sort of made a little diversion?
But the programme for that conference had been drawn up and publicised weeks ago. The decision that I was going to go and Chuka and Ed was going to do the CBI and the EF was made in, I think, October and November last year, as far as I know, certainly before Christmas. And the idea that because the Daily Mail suddenly starts shrieking, Ed Miliband's not going to the conference, he jumps out of his office, pops round and does an impromptu speech. Goodness me.
OK, Mervyn, thank you for that. Warren is in South Ribble. Hello, Warren.
Good evening, Ian, and good evening, Mr. Bowles.
Hi, Warren.
It's just a simple question, if I can. A straight yes or no will do. Given the news that is apparently coming around on Friday in respect of devolution of central budgets to Manchester, the so-called Devo Manc, which is going to include NHS funding, I wonder if in office Mr. Bowles would roll out this policy to the rest of the UK if it is successful.
Yes.
Well, you don't often get a straight yes.
Well, you said you just wanted yes or no. The answer's yes.
No, so, that's great. I think my follow-up to that then, the interesting point is that this is very much, we hear a lot about Labour's top-down supposed restructuring of the NHS. This is very much a bottom-up, and I think it does actually support the whole restructure and reform of the NHS, which I think was needed. So that seems to be a bit contradictory to the Labour policy, really, that seems to be critical of any kind of reform of that sector of public service.
No, look, we've been saying for the last 3 years that you need to get social care and the National Health Service working more closely together in order that you can get people to be able to be in their homes rather than blocking hospital beds. And the Tories have now cottoned on to this, and they were the ones who did a big top-down reorganisation, and they're now coming on to this policy which we've proposed. But the difference is we're also saying we're going to have a time to care fund with £2.5 billion more a year, which will mean 20,000 more nurses, 8,000 more GPs and 5,000 more people working in the community, helping people to stay in their homes. Now, unless the Tories are actually going to come along and start investing in the NHS in the way that we will, what I know will be said in Manchester and across the country is these structural reforms without the resources won't work. So the answer is, Warren, that our devolution will work and the Tories, in my view, will fail.
Right, let's go on to a very important subject which Marie in Yorkshire wishes to raise. Hello, Marie.
Hi, Ed Balls. Happy birthday.
Thank you, Marie.
My question is, basically, I'm a student at university.
Yep.
And I'm a bit confused about what Labour's policy actually is on tuition fees.
Yep.
You and Ed Miliband have had a bit of a disagreement on this recently, and I was just wondering, is this going to turn into like a new Tony Blair, Gordon Brown fight?
No, of course it's not. And there's been no...
Sunday Times this week indicated that it might.
No, but I mean, goodness me.
It's a perfectly reputable newspaper.
That was the low end in terms of anonymous quotes and all that kind of stuff. The thing is, Marie, that the current system of student finance is not working for students who are paying more, and for the taxpayer, which has got a massive growing burden of debt because of this failed policy. Now, what I can't do is come on LBC and give you some exclusive tonight, even though Ian may want me to. But in the next few days, we'll set out clearly our policy. And I think, Marie, if you're a student, then you'll like it.
But you, according to this article, are more in favour of a graduate tax rather than just simply reducing
compared to Ed Miliband.
Yeah.
Well, in the Labour leadership election, much to my annoyance, he wrote an article advocating a graduate tax before me.
So why isn't he sticking to that?
He is, and I think both me and him have both said that for the long term, we would like to have a fairer system of graduate repayment. You could call that a graduate tax. But as I said, we'll announce our policy in the next few days.
Well, I mean, you have already announced that you're going to cut tuition fees from £9,000 to £6,000. The rumour is that you weren't particularly in favour of that, but you lost that battle.
We haven't made any announcement on anything about fee cuts, and we'll make our announcement in the next few days. My job is to make sure not only that the policy is fair and long-term is going to work, but also that the sums add up. And I've been really clear that anything we announce in any policy area has got to be costed and paid for, and the sums have got to add up. And that is true in this policy area as in every other one.
So there was no massive fallout at a meeting between you and Ed Miliband last week, which, I mean, according to this article, again, insiders say a meeting between Miliband and Balls last Wednesday, which many hope will settle a policy, had ended badly. No truth in that at all?
No, it's not only untrue, it's a lie. It's untrue. It's a lie. It's made up.
Was there a meeting?
There was a meeting, and it ended extremely well because we were working out the details of an announcement which we'll make in the next few days. And there's been no big bust up in these issues.
Well, I hope you'll come on and when you make that announcement and talk to us, because I think this is actually one of the crucial policies at the next election. We have to go to the news and travel. Ed Balls is with me until 6. 0345 6060 973. This is LBC. It's 5:46. News headlines, Rupert Bhatia.
The Shadow Chancellor Ed Balls has told LBC an apology from HSBC for what's described as unacceptable practices at its Swiss branch is not enough. The Chief Constable of South Yorkshire Police says the investigation into Sir Cliff Richard has increased significantly in size since it started and now involves more than one allegation. Sir Cliff denies any wrongdoing. And Turkish Airlines has been asked to give evidence to MPs after it carried 3 radicalised British schoolgirls to Istanbul last week. This is LBC.
Ah, the unmistakable sound of friends getting together for the big match. Right now at Sainsbury's, a 15-pack of Kronenbourg and a 15-pack of Foster's are just £8 each. So that's a result then. Sainsbury's.
Offer ends 3rd March, subject to availability. Selected lines and stores only. Exclude Centrals and Locals, max 10 cases. Drink aware.
I'm Joanne Webb in the LBC Travel Centre. Well, there are long delays on the M4 eastbound to Junction 3 at the A312, and it's following an accident where one lane is closed. Also problems on the M3 in Surrey heading northbound. It's slow to Junction 3 at Lightwater, and that's because a car has broken down. Very busy on the M25 clockwise from Junction 27 at the M11 to Junction 28 at the A12, and that's following an accident where the motorway was closed earlier. It's all back open, but it is still very busy. Just hearing about some problems on the M5. There are delays southbound heading towards Junction 16 at the A38. It's after an accident. All the vehicles have been moved onto the hard shoulder, but it's still very slow. Problems in Swansea on the M4. Very similar story, really. Eastbound, it's slow to Junction 45 at the A4067. Everything was held for about 10 minutes. It's all back open now, but there are long queues on the approach. A couple of closures in Cornwall. The A30 is closed westbound at Blackwater and also closed at the A38 at Dobbswell. Keeping you moving, your next travel updates in 15 minutes.
This is LBC.
The power to switch energy supplier is in your hands. It's now easier than ever to switch and save. Many could save around £200, some even more.
I saved £170.
I saved £200.
We saved £230.
Millions have already switched. Don't miss out. Start today at beanenergyshopper.com. Brought to you by UK Government. £200 saving based on median household consumption for both gas and electricity. Details at gov.uk/switching evidence.
Have I got PPI?
If you've taken out a mortgage, loan or credit card with any bank and can't remember paying payment protection insurance, you're not alone. Find out if you have a PPI claim with haveigotppi.com. We don't need your paperwork or account number, just the name of the lender, and we'll do the rest. It's that easy. You could be owed thousands, so text FIND to 80800. haveigotppi.com. That's FIND to 80800.
The Vista of Venice, recognised throughout the world. But add in the sounds of the Grand Canal at first light, and it's unforgettable. It's these small finishing touches that make a huge difference. For the ultimate finishing touch for your home, use SureSet's permeable paving. Guaranteed for 15 years, it adds a classic touch to your home. Stunning, permeable paving from SureSet. To find out more, visit suresetfinish.com.
I was like most blokes, ballroom dancing. You're having a laugh. But the missus watched it on the telly, and after a wee bit of ear bending, I've given it a bash. Now I'm hooked. Mind you, all this gear doesn't come cheap. Still, Aviva saved me a few quid on my car insurance. Quality rhinestones didn't grow on trees, you know.
5-star car insurance from just £185, direct from Aviva. 10% of new customers paid £185 for standard cover August to October 2014. Price to individual circumstances.
So sorry.
Make sure you get a perfectly balanced performance. Michelin tyres bring safety, longevity and fuel efficiency factors together in one tyre. And throughout February, we at QuickFit are offering 25% off them. So for all-round total performance, ask for Michelin tyres at any of our QuickFit centres today. Offer available in-store only. Terms and conditions apply.
I know. The state pension is changing.
I know. How much you get will still depend on your national insurance record. And it's being made clearer to help me understand.
I know. I'll be able to see how much I'm likely to receive and understand what I can do to improve my state pension.
I know. If you reach state pension age on or after the 6th of April 2016, you'll be part of the new scheme.
Make sure you know the facts about the new state pension. Visit gov.uk/yourstatepension for more information.
Ian Dale at Drive on LBC.
It's 5:51. We have Ed Balls, the Shadow Chancellor, with us. You can watch us at lbc.co.uk, and you might certainly want to do that in the next couple of minutes because it's been getting pretty steamy on the website Mumsnet recently. Users have been describing which politicians they would most like to sleep with. Ed Balls has been described as a sexy beast. So we've decided to pull off some of Ed's sexier moments and ask people whether they have the hots for balls.
Every morning he rings in at 7 o'clock to see if they want him. And when they say no, he has to wait around all day.
Yikes. He could rock my world, sure.
You see, would I want to spend a night with them is the question. If I'm desperate, maybe.
We want to do this. We intend to do it. It's our plan to do it. In government, we would do it now.
He's quite attractive, yes, I suppose. Yeah. Perhaps not my type, but, yeah.
He doesn't look too bad, but I really don't think he's the most attractive politician from what I've seen of him in the past.
He's not unattractive, but he's not attractive. 6 out of 10?
I understand the desire, and I think we should be banging the table.
Not particularly to my taste, they're a bit old for me.
You see, you seem to do pretty well amongst the men there rather than the women, if I may say so. Is that what do you make of that? I mean, when you're describing...
I think I should ask you what you make of it.
I'm pleading the fifth one. Though I do have a friend... No, never mind.
I thought that started well and then slightly fell away towards the end, didn't you?
Is that what happens with you, Ed? It starts well, but you kind of fade away?
No, a long, slow burn.
How do you think that would go down with Yvette? Do you think she would relate to any of those comments?
I think Nick Clegg showed why politicians should never speculate on these matters, and so therefore I think I just probably shouldn't go there. Don't you?
But you see,
I was a bit surprised by this Mumsnet, but you know, what the hell?
being described as a sexy beast. I think any politician would like that. Ed Miliband didn't get described as a sexy beast. I bet he was a bit annoyed about this, wasn't he?
Well, it's another example of the return to our Blair Brown bad relationship. I can't believe you're the sexy beast, not me. What a load of tosh.
It's Boris Johnson in this survey. People reckon that he would be fun in bed.
Well, I mean, I'm desperately trying to hold back on making libelous statements at that point. But I can say that personally, I don't know if Boris Johnson's fun in bed.
Thank God for that. We nearly had a Natalie Bennett moment there, didn't we? Anne is in Oldham. Anne, please rescue us from this. What would you like to ask?
I hope you're not asking what I think you might be about to ask, Anne.
Is it 49 and a half shades of grey?
Look, Anne, if you want to come and fill in the other half any time.
No.
Honestly. Right, Anne, I think we need to get to your question, don't we?
In better order than mine. What I'm ringing for is the... you keep saying rich pensioners and removing, is it the winter fuel allowance?
That's it, yeah.
How are you going to do that? How much will that cost?
Yep.
Are you going to do it off, like I pay 20%,
yep.
Are you going to do it like 40% and above? Sure. Or are you going to do it on means testing for everybody?
Yep. I promise you, Anne, if you're a 20% taxpayer, you're definitely not going to be affected, because we're only talking about people who are people with a pension income, which means they pay the higher rate of tax. That means they have to have a pension income every year of £41,800, I think is the number. It's about £42,000. It's only 5% of pensioners. So 95% of pensioners, everybody who's not a taxpayer or a basic rate payer won't be affected by this. But we are saying that for the people on the highest pensions, that we have to make difficult decisions, and for them we can't afford to keep paying them the winter allowance.
So there won't be any means testing as such. It'll all be done through the tax system.
It's all done through the tax system. It's all done through the tax return.
So why not do that for all benefits? I mean, all universal benefits, and so that anybody who is sort of richer and can afford to pay for their own fuel and all the rest of it. I mean, why, for example, not do that for TV licences as well?
Because TV licences is a different system. In the case of TV licences, it's not done in a way which can be connected to the tax system at all. Basically, on TV licenses, it's only about your age. So if you are over 75, you don't pay for your TV licence. And the BBC, the people who administer the TV licence, they know your age, but they don't know your income. And there isn't a way to match up the TV licence paying to people's tax returns, and so it would raise a small amount of money, but more importantly, the administration of that would be totally impossible. So I can say we are not going to be changing the policy on TV licences.
Okay. Anne, thank you very much. Another Anne is in Brentwood. Hello, Anne.
Hello, Ian.
Hi, what would you like to ask?
Hi, Anne.
Hi, Mr. Balls. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Right, my question's quite short and sweet. As a socialist, I assume you believe in non-elitist stroke selective education. So would I be right in assuming you send your children to state primary and or state comprehensive schools? Because I imagine,
yes is the answer.
There's a lot in the Labour Party are themselves products of elitist stroke selective education.
Yep.
So could I have your views? Is it wrong for me to want to send my boy to Eton?
I don't think it's wrong, but it's not something that we do. We send our children to a state secondary school, and but it should be for your choice. I'm happy to live in a society where people can choose to do things in a different way, but it's not a choice that I would make.
Okay, let's go to Marie, who's in Putney. Hello, Marie.
Hello. I'd just like to say I started a campaign for better-looking politicians about 4 years ago.
Did you?
You haven't been very successful.
I don't believe that we've made any progress across party at all.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah,
well, we've got some.
serious.
There's some really attractive politicians, men and women, who came in 2010.
Who,
don't you think?
For instance?
I think it would be invidious of me to start naming the.
Questions. I keep missing them. Then.
Really?
Is there no politician, Marie, that you find attractive?
Boris Johnson, definitely not. Those people, I don't know what they're on, but wow.
But Marie.
No, Marie, I think we ought to get to your question.
Marie, privately, just between you and me, so with nobody else listening, am I not on the list?
No, Ed. I'm sorry.
That's
you're a very great guy otherwise.
Desperate stuff. Marie, we need to get to your question.
I'll take the great guy out anyway.
Okay, Ed. Do you believe that we are actually in a recovery, an economic recovery? And if we are, how can it be sustained?
I think the economy has definitely recovered since the recessions of the last few years because the economy started to grow again. I think it's a recovery which is still not as strong as I would like because the business investment and the export performance of our country has not been great. And I think that for many people listening to the programme, it's not a recovery which they've seen any benefit from at all. And until we get to a position where people's wages are rising much faster than prices, where people are really better off because the productivity of our economy is getting much stronger, I think most people will say, well, that's not really the kind of recovery which we'd recognise.
Well, the OECD called it a textbook recovery, didn't they?
Well, the OECD were quite critical about what was happening on infrastructure and on productivity, exactly the point I was just making.
But they did call it that. We have the stock market at its highest rate since 1999. We've got unemployment at its lowest rate for a very long time.
Yes, right.
They're not doing too badly, are they?
I think if David Cameron and George Osborne want to go around the country for the next 70 days telling people, you've never had it so good, our policy's working, can't you see the benefit? I think that's a disaster for them because most people will turn around and say, well, it may be working for you and the people funding your Conservative Party, but for most of us, we're seeing no benefit at all.
On a happier note, we have mentioned several times, it is your birthday today. We have a little cake for you. I don't know if we can get that in the camera there. It's from a very reputable source.
Fancy.
And we have a little present for you if you'd like to open that and show it to the camera.
I'm not totally sure. This feels like an unwise move to open my... That's the opening. Can you hear it?
It could be for your next job.
I hope it's not connected to the previous kind of little sequence.
No, it isn't. No. Hold it up to the camera.
Look at that.
Do you think you're in need of that?
Well, look, it's always good to have a calculator.
Well, in case you're not, here's the receipts, because I know you like a receipt.
I know. Did you?
You're a big fan of receipts.
And you paid in cash?
We did.
You paid in cash?
Yeah.
I'll have to
out of my own money.
Did you?
And I won't be claiming it back on expenses before anyone asks, because I don't have any. Ed Balls, thank you very much. We will see you again in March. I think we're going to see you shortly after the budget, so that will be very good. Thank you very much indeed. We'll leave you stuffing your face. This is LBC. It's 6 o'clock.
On FM, online, on your mobile, and on digital radio. Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 6 o'clock, the Shadow Chancellor has told LBC that banks need to show they've changed to restore public confidence. Ed Balls has welcomed an apology by the Chief Executive of HSBC for what's described